Welcome to Lesson 3. Lesson 3, we are going to be looking at blending modes. We're going to try and recreate the double exposure using Photoshop. I have opened up a photograph of my furry face and you can see that there is one layer here, is just a photograph, a JPEG, and there is just one layer. That layer is currently locked as a padlock right there. You can double click on this layer and click OK, and now that is editable. It means I can change that layer and do stuff to it. However, if I do that and accidentally go too far and I can't go back far enough, then I will have to close it down without saving it and reopen it up again in the original format. And there's a possibility of me saving over the original, which I don't want to do. So if you right click and duplicate layer, click OK, then you can just duplicate that layer. So there's two layers there now that are exactly the same. And that bottom one, click on that padlock there, and that locks that layer. So if I do accidentally do anything where I want to go back to the original image, I have that original image there at the bottom. So I can just get rid of this layer that I'll now edit. Okay, we have that photo, and I have another photo open of a sunset. Okay, I'm going to move the sunset into the other photo. So use the move tool, just click and drag into the tab and then release. Okay, I'm going to resize that, Control T for transform, and then use Shift as you drag the corner, keep finger on Shift so it maintains the right dimensions. So at the moment I have two active layers here, layer 1 the sky, layer 0 my face. If I click on the preview you can see that it's underneath. Now your blending options are just above here where it's currently on normal, which means that they are just photos on top of each other. However, I can change the blending mode on that top layer to make it see-through in different kinds of ways. If you click on that drop down, there's lots of different options. So if I click on dissolve, nothing has happened, but that is now active, the little blue border around there, which means that I can just scroll through. If I use the arrow key, the down arrow key on my keyboard, I can go through the different options. So darken, you can now see the face coming through. Multiply, you can see the face quite clearly. Color burn, linear burn, lots of different options. You can scroll through and see which one you think looks nice. Okay, so there are lots of different ones. Depending on the quality of the image, the colours of the image, the brightness and darknesses of the images, they will blend together in slightly different ways. So what works on one set of photos won't necessarily work on another set of photos. Okay, so linear dodge, colour dodge. Linear dodge is quite good, I'll leave that one on. You can of course change the opacity of each layer so that it's less obvious that that blur is there, if you wish. Right. If I now click on the bottom layer and drag it above, you will see that that blending option has now gone. There's no blending mode on this one, it's on normal. But I can then put screen or overlay on that one instead. So now that one is see-through, and that one is see-through. Okay, so this one has linear dodge on it. The sunset has linear dodge on it, which means that the two images blend together like this. And if I put that one to the top, my face has overlay on it, which means they blend together like that. Okay. With Photoshop, you can multiply and blend many different images. So we will now get a different image. Let's go for some flowers and drag that in as well. Okay. And let's go through the blending modes here. So you can see that there's quite a difference in the style that it blends them together now that there are three there. So none of them are actually very nice to look at, but let's go for that one. I can change the opacity of that layer so it's not quite as obvious, like that. Now I have three layers. Soft light on the flowers, which is at the top. Second layer down, my face has overlay on it. Third layer down, the sunset has linear dodge on it. So you can change the order of those, and that will change how the image looks. If it doesn't crash like that. Okay. Now you will notice that images that have a lot of white background, etc., can blend together quite well with darker images. Now, if we just go to the face image and get back the original face, you'll notice that we can change the contrast of this image so that it's a lot darker, so the blacks are a lot blacker, the whites are a lot whiter, so it's almost a two-tone image. That can really help with when you blend the two images together. If I made it a total silhouette, then you would just have the silhouette of that face like that, with all the flowers in the center. You wouldn't be able to see any face, just the outline. So that can work really well. Obviously, there's not really any features to notice on that face if we made it a silhouette, so it wouldn't look that good. Now I can go to image and adjustments and edit that image itself, but I do not want to edit on that image. I do not want to alter the image itself. So we're going to make an adjustment layer. So up there are your adjustment layers. You can also get to it down here, the little half black, half white circle. The adjustment layer is like a window of glass that you place above the layers. So if it was a tinted window, everything underneath is therefore tinted, but take the glass away and you have the original image there. So it is an invisible masking layer that you edit the layer, not the image itself. Okay, so we will now go to create a curves adjustment layer. Now you will see that that has created that new layer right there above the face, and you have your curves graph as well. Okay, so that layer is what we're editing. That will change everything underneath. So alter your curves graph, and you can see that that's what happens. So you pull the dark, the bottom area down to make the dark bits dark, the top bits to make the white bits white. Something like that, that's fine. Looks ridiculous there maybe, but when we blend them together, hopefully they blend together really well. So if we click on the sky and the flowers, you can see now that the flowers are at the top. They haven't been affected by those curves, but the two layers underneath have been affected by the curves. Okay, so if I drag that adjustment layer right to the top, everything underneath it will then be affected, so the flowers as well. So that curves is being applied to all three layers. I only want it to be on the layer with the face. So if I put it above the layer with the face and then drag the sky layer to the top so that it's not affected, there we go, look at that, lovely. Now if I click off, there you go. So you can see that just with the sky layer you get quite a good effect. The dark areas are filled with the sky, the white remains white. Depending on what images you've got, that can work really well. Obviously if you've got really high contrast images with white, and then you've got some really dark images together, they can blend really well. Okay, right, so let's try that now. So if we go and find two different images that have a slightly different sort of colours and contrasts and brightnesses to those two, they will interact together differently, and the blending modes will have slightly different effects. Now we are doing experimental photography, so we want to have a little bit of a play around and be creative. So I'm going to have these two rather portly Portuguese ladies on the beach, and this photo of a storm in Florida. Now I'm not going to resize this image. I am going to leave it like that and see what that how that makes the image look. So if I now put the blending mode on that layer, scroll through using the arrow key on the keyboard now, you can see that you get various effects, some more appealing than others. Some look really good but just a little too much, so again you can change the opacity of that layer so that it's not as obvious. But if we scroll through, there are some quite cool ones. Quite like the look of those. I quite like Pin Light, that looked good. So let's stick on Pin Light, there we go. Nice. Now let's be a bit more experimental, so let's go and get that sunset image again. and let's use that. So let's click and drag that using the move tool, remember, and release that on here, and I'm going to resize that to Control T, shift while you drag to the whole size of the image, click OK, enter. There we go. Now that's not got any blending mode on it yet, but now it will do a scroll through with that arrow key. Ooh, they're nice. Ooh, lovely how that plays with all three images. Ooh, so I have a little play around. Yeah, okay, that's quite nice. Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Very hot, like Mars. Okay, but maybe a little bit too much, so let's change the opacity of that layer. Yeah, that's cool. Now, okay, let's make another adjustment layer. So let's play with a different adjustment layer now that we know what we're doing. Let's go for hue and saturation. Creates a new layer right at the top, which means that everything underneath is changed. So if I change the hue, that changes the color balance of every image underneath. If I drag it down so it's only above the two women, then you can see that if I double click on that little icon there, brings up your hue and saturation again, and now I can change that, and it's only changing the bottom layer, the layer with the two ladies on. So you can really kind of make quite an interesting blend there. So that's quite good, but maybe a little bit too vibrant, so you can change the lightness or the saturation of that. Okay, so that's quite nice. Well, it's alright. This is basically what you're going to be doing, so I just want you to play around, use 1, 2, 3, 4 different photos, layer them, try the different blending modes out, try adding adjustment layers, and then try swapping the order of those. Okay, and see what you can get.